Bat music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Greetings, citizens of Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the show that you're all taking for granted if you don't immediately go and give us a 5-star review on iTunes right now. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
Oh, that was like professional level plug-in right there, John. I'm impressed myself. I want to give us a 5-star review now.
What plugging? I was just quoting the minute. What are you talking about?
And I am dangling over the precipice, Niall McGowan.
Yes, and we are joined by our very, very special guest. You may remember her from last season, one of the most popular set of episodes, I believe. We have author, YouTuber, Bard, Kiri Callaghan.
Hello! I'm very excited to be here.
Hello. Will we go completely off the rails like last time? We'll see.
Probably.
Most likely.
Tangents are my middle name.
It's our specialty as well. So this is a match made in heaven. And we are looking today at minute 61. The minute starts with some fast as lightning kung fu fighting, and it ends with some deep probing.
I think we were saying last week, though, about you get some minutes that seem like they're way longer than a minute. This minute seems like it's about an hour long. There's so much stuff packed into it. Like, at the end, it was like, have I accidentally watched, 5 minutes or something by mistake? It's just like, yeah, there's, 10 different things happen in the space of time. And then the next minute, it's just like, yeah, she falls off the roof, and then that's about it.
It's a very exciting minute full of very weird... I don't know what Michelle Pfeiffer is doing with her voice for this character. I completely spaced that because I hadn't watched it since I was a child.
Oh.
And... because I was like, oh yeah, I remember really loving this, and then I'm going back and going, oh, this is problems, doesn't it?
I find that interesting though that you think that, because she seems quite. A lot of women seem to really, really like her. There's very few people who are critical of elements of her that I thought they would be. So I'm interested to see where you go with that.
I don't completely dislike her. She very much feels like that early 90s what the patriarchy thought feminism was.
Yeah.
It's this weird, her voice completely changes, and I'm like, Michelle Pfeiffer, your voice is sexy enough on its own. What are you doing? I'm just over the top, yes, I'm so, yes. I'm just like, what is that?
I like that, though, because I think she's kind of... I've probably said this before. I think she's doing it deliberately
She definitely is.
Ensnare the men, then use it against them.
Mm.
It's like the sexy version of, where is she?
Yeah.
So you just kind of, giggle at it a little bit.
I know we did touch on, apparently there is a literal practical reason for her, really lowering her tone as well. Because apparently it was just Michelle Pfeiffer couldn't hear herself talk. And so Tim Burton advised her to speak on a lower register, because then it would kind of reverberate around the mask more or something. I think it was the idea.
Oh, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
The lower tone I'm fine with. It's the elongated that I'm like, it's just a little too cringy for me at certain points, where it's just so disingenuous that you're like, all right, if you think this is sexy, cool. I'm not here to judge. It's not that far out of my way, though, so I might.
I said this last minute, but you get even more of it here, her fighting style at the start here.
Yes.
It's really physical. It's totally different to Batman, who's very measured and slow.
Her physicality is so fantastic, and I do love that about her.
That's considering how tight the outfit is as well. It's amazing that you can lift that leg at all.
Right? It's got to be stretchy vinyl. I will say the thing, well, I think it is, because when she falls, we'll talk about this the next minute, when you look at the ripped part on her shoulder, is I'm like, okay, I think this is all vinyl. It's not leather or whatever. It's stretchy vinyl.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be because it was literally one coat that somehow made this entire cat suit. So
right?
better be
I'm
stretchy.
like, no.
Well, we know it was vinyl, but it was also incredibly uncomfortable, apparently. So I'm still impressed she can get the leg up for those kicks.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I'm sure she was like sweating bullets consistently. That stuff is gross.
She hated the outfit with the pat. Like, she liked how it looked, but wearing it was apparently just hell on earth.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt it because it's not a fun material. It doesn't breathe. It's not meant to.
That's part of the fun, I suppose.
Right? I guess. You're like, well, I just feel like I spent my entire day in a shower because I'm covered in sweat.
But speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer going through rough things, she sort of backed Batman into this corner, and then he just, and as Batman would do with any other criminal, just punches her in the head, and she falls straight down.
Yeah, one blow.
Which is just kind of funny. Like, just like, just how that is done. Because you were talking about, like, he's so much stiffer than she is in his movement. And I think I was thinking of that when I was rewatching this, how much more obvious in this film I feel like his inability to move his neck is.
Yes.
Like, I was just noticing it so much more than, like, when we watched original Batman of, like, the cowl prevents him from moving in certain ways. And in this movie, I'm like, oh, you can really see it, though.
I think that's the problem. They've made improvements to the suit so he can move more, but in doing that, they then assume he can do a lot more than even that. So they give him scenes that he should be in full motion, and it's not that much of an improvement. So it highlights it more.
There's been like an old hand on set, though, just been there, Adam West could do it. Michael Keaton, like, all right, fine, I'll do it then.
Adam West was wearing spandex!
We need more spandex back in superhero movies.
Apparently.
Well, Ben, it looks like we're getting it with Shazam. It just looks like he has a big pair. He's got a big muscle suit on, and then spandex just stretched to the top of it.
That's what I want.
So excited for Shazam. It looks hilarious. And I'm like, DC, well done. Maybe. Hopefully. We'll see. They might get up.
I recall a time when merely the trailers for Suicide Squad existed, and everyone was like, this movie looks like it's going to be great. So we'll have to see what happens.
Did
what
we?
a pity.
I had problems. I liked the Queen music video thing, but even looking at it, like, this is not going to be what they're making it to look like, I can tell.
Yeah.
And boy, did it disappoint even from that.
I mean, you've got a Juggalo Joker. There was only so much you could go from with that. I was relieved he was in it so briefly, but was also confused at why he was highlighted so much in the
why was
the
he even in that at
media
all?
promotion stuff when I'm like, you were barely in this.
That was a weird thing, though, because I actually rewatched it this week because I was on guesting with the DC Minute guys who, like, they're doing Suicide Squad currently. And I remember at the time...
going through that minute by minute.
But the thing is, like, at the time when I first saw it, it was like, oh, there's so much to take in. So I was like, oh, Leto's Joker's just kind of fine. Like, he's trying a bit too hard, but, like, whatever. Because I was too busy registering everything else. And then I watched it again this time, and I was like, oh, I hate him. I think he's like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, I can't believe we went through a whole movie talking about the Joker, and I didn't vent how much I hate his version of it.
I think back then you were still young and naive now.
But it's just like every single time he laughs, it just sounds like a guy like, yes, I have created the perfect Joker laugh because it's so strange. And it's just a really performed like, yes, he laughs like, eh, eh, eh. Like, nobody laughs like that.
Jared Leto as the Joker laughs like that.
Exactly. How dare you doubt him?
Just seeing Joaquin Phoenix just peering through a window in the background, just like, your days are numbered, buddy.
He makes a note in a little pad, do not do that laugh. Create new laugh.
Or just laugh like a normal person. It doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be a hysterical laugh. But,
wow. Maybe just laugh a lot.
But we've covered the Joker quite extensively, and I believe
we did in a movie he doesn't exist in. Sorry, going back to Catwoman getting punched in the head. which is kind of funny to watch, actually. Just watch it on loop. Wow, boom.
I have to say, for Batman, he is very much an equal opportunities crime fighter, because we saw him earlier. He threw that friggin' that remote control batarang. He was intending for that to hit the poodle lady in the face as well. So I guess he is just like, well, why would I treat her any differently than I would any other criminal?
It's very interesting, actually. The amount of between the two, the more I'm like, wow. I get that we owe the animated series to the Tim Burton films, and I will take them for that very reason, because I love the animated series with a fiery passion. But he's so seems to not care about the welfare of people as much. I'm just you just threw a bomb down after. Okay, all right. And then the last movie, you blew up you are killing a lot of people, Batman.
Oh yeah, in this movie, especially he set people on fire. He's done everything.
And his face doesn't move, and I suspect again that's because of the cowl. But it's just so I don't know. I feel like the Penguin's whole let's make Batman seem evil was maybe not that hard for him to do.
I mean, yeah, he's going around just murdering people without
people. It's fine with smile. Punches Catwoman in the head, and she has one of my favorite lines, just because it just seems so silly. And not that it's not a silly thing to say. It's kind of silly. She's trying to attack him, and then she gets upset that he attacks her back. So I'm like, that's dumb. But just the ridiculous way in which it's said, it was just how could you? I'm a woman. And the best part is it works.
Yes. Yeah. That's what really baffled me. Batman falls for it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." It's hang on a minute. She was trying to kill you.
Literally 1 second ago was trying to kill you, and it just. I feel like Batman got dumbed down a bit for this movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't feel it's a pet peeve I have of where I feel like when they want to make villains get the better of their hero, and instead of making the villains extra clever, going full Moriarty, they kind of dumb down the hero a bit. Where you're like, why did you fall for that? Are you just so taken aback of oh, I've never had a female villain say how could you? I'm a woman.
Maybe he's never thought about it before. He's like, oh yeah, hang on a minute. Society will hate me.
PR. This is a PR disaster.
I'm pretty sure if someone's trying to murder you, you can kind of waive the whole not hitting a woman thing. That's the one time it's okay.
She's got literal blades on her fingertips as she's swiping at you. I think you're fine, Batman.
I have actually noticed here as well, just because I've got the image of her down on all fours there, paused. And for the first time, because I only really realized, watching it minute by minute, that the entire time she has the whip wrapped around her. It was a thing I never noticed before. And I've actually noticed now, because I think we mentioned something last week about you could see they obviously had to cut away because she wraps it back around herself again, and then the handle's just kind of dangling. So they obviously need to fix that somewhere. And I've just noticed now, if you see her in that image, the handle's strategically placed in a little loop just near.
Yeah.
So it's this is all done. Because I kind of assumed they must have had it stitched to her in some way when she was doing other stuff, and then when they needed the whip, they just took it off. But this is no, it seems to be this is strategically done in the way she would have to do it. And if
hats off to costuming.
Yeah, did a great job.
I'll admit, whenever I've watched it before, growing up and whatnot, I just assumed it made no sense, right? And for the acting, they just didn't have her with the whip, and when she needed it, someone just came and gave her the whip.
Yeah,
and you weren't meant to question where it came from.
It was literally a magically occurring whip. That's just it's a whip. And
I would have bought that as a child as well. We played video games enough where you didn't have a weapon until you needed the weapon. I think I probably would have just also been didn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can play when I was a kid, I'd play Doom, and you carry 10 weapons at once, the size of a house. It's fine.
Where are they? Who knows until you need them.
Also, it's even in the recent Arkham games. That's the thing you always see, because you can see when Batman's running, the cape flaps up, you can see badass and everything. And it's
oh yeah.
Not badass, but bat-ass.
But you can see the amount of weapons he picks up throughout the game. It's he's picking up giant guns that are designed to shoot electricity and stuff, and then he's just gonna like, yep, puts it at his side, and then it's just there whenever you need it. But like, that's not hanging off his belt the whole goddamn time.
Well, they don't tell you that Batman also has a bat bag of holding on his bat belt. So.
Of course, it all makes sense now.
A bat of holding, if you will.
Oh. But anyway, because we do get the chivalrous Batman kicks into gear here with his, "Oh, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry,"
and he's getting hit in the head.
I feel like Bruce is extra awkward in this movie, like
physically or as a character.
Just like physically, like yeah, he was always a little awkward, and like when he talked to like Vicky in the past movie. But in this one, I'm just like, Bruce, we've seen you interact with women in the last movie.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I feel like you learned nothing from that.
I think he's
Somehow
really
you've gotten
taken
more awkward.
I just think like Vicky was his normal type of woman in the previous film.
That's fair.
But this, I think Selina in her new guise, shall we say, it's something he's not used to. Like, but he's into it. It's kind of scaring him a little bit. Like,
I always feel like Alfred was more into getting him and Vicky together than he was.
Oh yeah, I think that was our whole thing throughout the last season. It's clearly Alfred is just setting these two up, desperate to get them together.
It's like you need a hobby or a girlfriend. This whole bat thing is it's getting out of hand. And this one, he's kind of accepted it. And
imagine that though. He comes home and says, "Alfred, don't worry, I've got another girlfriend now. It's fine." He's like, "Oh, good. You can drop this whole bat thing." He's like, "Yeah, but there's a twist. She's a cat."
No, she is a cat woman. Who also likes dressing up as an idiot.
God damn it.
Alfred's just like that old parent that's like really trying to get their kid out of the basement, getting a social life, trying to live a more normal existence. And he's just getting further in there. He's like, damn it.
He's still kind of supportive, though. You know, he'll still give his kid Bruce the credit card so he can go online and purchase his furry costume. It's fine.
He'll still help him hack various frequencies, apparently.
Yes.
I do wonder though when Kim Basinger saw this movie. I'm assuming she watched it, and like, did she have any kind of feeling of the fact that like in the first movie when Bruce Wayne first meets her? Like, he does the whole, like, oh, I don't even know who Bruce Wayne is, that whole act and stuff. But then when he is talking to her, he's somewhat charming and stuff. He's kind of getting his way through the conversation. And yet when he first sees Selina Kyle, he's really like, like, he's really just like, the jaw just drops on him and stuff. As if this is the most beautiful woman he's ever seen in his entire life. And he's all like, oh, I'm leaving, and all this business in the elevator and stuff.
I think it's because, though, the attitude, that's what's really blowing his mind. I mean, obviously she's beautiful, but I think it's the way she's holding herself now. She's this new version of herself, the way she's acting. That's what's really like caught. It is, let's be honest, it is almost in a kind of dominatrixy, fetishistic kind of a way. She's very controlling, but not necessarily aggressive. It's more manipulative.
Well, you see, when that whip comes out, though, you have to wonder. Like, we know where Selina got it in terms of it was already on her person. But you do wonder, like, behind closed doors, even in the past, why does Selina Kyle have a whip? Like, what is she? Does she have other stuff in that closet too that we weren't seeing when she was tearing everything apart?
I mean, maybe. Also, it's possible, like, because you first see her appear in sporting goods, so I was like, maybe that was the first thing she stole. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where does one pick up a whip like that other than a sex shop? That's my real question. Because
exactly.
It's a black vinyl looking whip, and I'm just. Where did she stop first?
I was baffled there for a second because I was thinking the way you said that was like, you could just buy whips in sporting goods stores in America?
I mean,
what?
Maybe some of them. I don't know. I don't know what kind of place Shrek's department stores are.
It's got a sex store in the dungeon / basement.
But like, well, maybe more of like an Indiana Jones sort of whip or the kind of whips you see for like cracking for like actual like whip tricks, but not what she's got. Maybe no. I don't even know.
It's a different type of whip to what I would think if you were doing that.
Very much
I
so.
think she had it already, because I'm still maintaining it's all about, it's kind of like turning a metaphor into reality. A bit like David Lynch always does, make something literal. Like, I think this was her kind of it's her inner self coming to the fore. She's had enough. She's externalizing what's within. So I think maybe, she was into this kind of thing behind closed doors.
You know what?
In her own time.
I like that, and I actually would have a lot less problem with her character if that was something that they could have established beforehand. Because it's really the thought of like, what is it with DC and women coming back from the dead and getting like weirdly slutty? like not even like in control of their sexuality, like just bizarrely like, I will throw myself at everyone. And I'm like, all right.
I do wonder though, like, if we're thinking that, like, oh, maybe Selina was in this kind of stuff already. Like, if they actually had a scene when that guy, lame boyfriend, as he was called in the script, when he's phoning her up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to cancel that trip. I'll be going alone. I need to be less of an appendage and stuff. If it cut to him and he was like in his bedroom and you saw like all these whip marks on his back and stuff, he's like, oh, Selina, I don't think this relationship is working too well.
See, I think it is something
or
like
her
that.
talking
maybe.
herself up or something. Like, all you have to see is like, she does have that part of her. The complete personality switch without like it being connected to anything bothers me. It doesn't even really matter what that switch had been. It's more of the fact of like, it doesn't make sense why like all of a sudden you become this. I like the idea of her, like her inner self becoming her outer self and making that same very similar Bruce Wayne switch where, again, like later in the movie, they're at the masquerade ball. They're the only two people not wearing masks. And it's because, at least the way I saw it, was for those two, Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne, are their masks. Because they actually are Batman and Catwoman. So I like that idea. And that actually makes me really more... I really wish there'd been something prior to that where we got to see that hint of that was her inner self. So it wasn't like, because it very much does seem like, unless you really start to think about like, well, where did you get that whip? It does start to make you go, why did you completely shift as a human being? Like,
yeah, I think that it would improve it if it hinted towards it somewhat.
yeah.
Because you're right, it does, unless you're breaking it down like we are, it does seem like a very sudden switch, and you just sort of attribute it to, well, I guess she like, although Niall will argue with this, she died and came back and it's a different person now, and blah, blah, blah.
I think that's becoming our question of the season, Kiri, so we might as well ask you as well. Like, when Selina's pushed out that window, and she goes through a bunch of canopies, mind you, that would break her fall on the way to the ground, and she lands on the ground.
Don't lead the question.
She lands on the ground without her body doesn't literally turn into mulch. Do you think she died and the cats magically brought her back to life? Or do you think she was just very, very injured? These cats were just coming along anyway, and then that woke her up and she had mentally snapped. So it's like, it's not a literal death, but it's like a figurative death.
I feel like her surviving that would be difficult.
Yes.
But I would like to believe she doesn't actually survive. Or, like, I'd like to believe she actually survives, but I also know this is the same movie where a toddler was so evil it ate a cat.
Yes.
So, I think you're giving Tim Burton a little too much credit by saying that she survived.
Well, that's actually, we can get more into it in the next minute as well, because something else happens that I actually had a question tying into this main question. So if we can put a pin in that and then come back to it in the next episode, actually. But then, of course, Batman's now facing, I'll have to say, like, his facial expressions are pretty apt for, he's just got kicked, and then all of a sudden a whip is just getting cracked in his head, his face.
And this is how he gets his chin scar.
Yeah, then he goes over the edge, almost falls to his death. But of course,
I love how clumsily he falls over the roof. I mean that literally. It's realistic. If you fall off a roof, it's not going to look balletic.
It's not graceful at all. Like you see the full awkwardness of the costume.
Yeah.
There's actually a great behind the scenes shot though, like when she, sort of loops the whip through the kind of antenna thing, and he's supposed to be hanging. But then they obviously had to shoot that in a kind of slightly different way. And for some reason, you get this one behind-the-scenes shot of her in that position doing that. And a guy, I'm assuming it's not Keaton, but someone in the bat suit beside her on the ledge, like lying flat on the ledge with a real like kind of facial expression. And she's kind of looking at him. And I don't know if there was a thing where she's like, oh, I need someone there to look at while I'm pretending he's dangling off the roof, so I had to get a guy in. But it just looks very, very silly.
It really does. What does he hit her with?
Well,
Yes, that is confusing. I have no
Can
idea.
we talk about that? Because it looks like she bleeds blue splatter or something. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it was electrical, but if you like really look at how it hits her, it splashes. Like
Yeah.
it looks like it's not sparks, it's splashing. And I'm like, was this originally supposed to be blood? And then they're like, oh, we can't do that. We'll make it blue. It looks like he throws a blue water balloon at her.
because I've looked into this, and I don't buy this because I think I think they're taking it from a thing she says later. But all of online media in talking about this specifically says it's napalm that he throws at her.
Yeah, I saw that, and there's
They
no
say
way it's napalm.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, he throws. I think it's only because later on she says Batman napalmed my arm, which I always took to seem like, yeah, he threw something at it, like it was acid or something to burn me, but it was
I didn't
similar to
think
napalm.
he actually threw napalm at her. I thought she was just, hyperbole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think,
Like, because, hang on. Squid, is that a thing?
I looked into it, and apparently, like, napalm can be attributed to a bunch of different things, but it's basically jellified gasoline.
Yeah,
Mixed with
gelling
something
agent and a
else.
volatile petrochemical. Okay, so technically, I guess it could be.
It's too
But it
liquid,
just-
though.
I always thought it was like from the beginning
I
of
guess.
Apocalypse Now, when you see them napalming the jungle, you see like this orange gas. I assume napalm was like an orange gas until
Oh,
Well,
no.
I think that's specifically Agent Orange.
no.
Which-
Yeah. The point of napalm is it if I recall, is it clings to your skin.
Yeah.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, send in your angry emails. I think you can't like wash it off in water, so you can't jump in like a river because it clings to you. The gel like sticks to your flesh.
A sticky incendiary gel. So I guess it's. So I guess if you like mixed it with the gas, like it could reform as that's terrifying.
There is actually one of the other scripts has a little added detail, because in this one we just get a little flash of the blue neon liquid. It's like our first sign of neon. We're going to be seeing loads of that in the next two movies. But,
Yeah.
they actually add in a little thing, but they specifically said he takes out a thing that has a blue capsule and a red capsule, and while she's talking, he has to mix the two together, and then he throws it like it is a chemical concoction of two different things. So in that regard, if that's what napalm is like you have to mix the two elements together, then I guess that is what he... But then how would she know specifically, oh yeah, he totally napalmed my arm?
I think she's just saying it because it's not napalm. There's no way. It's something that's burnt her.
Yeah.
Because it's also super illegal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But this is another crazy move on Batman's part.
I'm just going to throw acid on her. It's fine. I'm also realizing now that I've watched this in slow motion like multiple times, because I'm like, it almost looks like a water balloon they throw at her. But whatever he's fiddling around with in his hand is definitely not what he throws at her. Also, I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually hit her.
Yeah.
Because I think it goes past her, and then there's a thing set to explode on her arm.
Yeah, it's like a blue squib thing that just goes off, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if you watch it slowly, you can see like it actually kind of goes a little bit, like it definitely does not hit her. It just goes by her.
But there's one thing actually, speaking of that would be count as a sort of slight continuity error or just a slight visual error. And I remember the last time you were on, Kiri, we had the slight goof of where when Batman spun around, you'd seen his belt slip down like a couple of inches on his waist. And there's actually a pretty massive continuity goof, like that's very, very blatant, that's this minute that, like, I don't know if you guys, you might, well, piece it together by, you recall in the previous week, Shrek's department store blew up. And then as Batman's dangling off the building, you'll see behind him Shrek's department store completely fine. Like, nothing happened to him.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, is there any explanation we can come up with? The only thing I could think is maybe
Oh
he's
my
got
gosh,
another
it's
store.
right there and it's fine. Well, maybe it's like Macy's, there's multiple. Yeah.
I
right?
thought that, but it looks exactly the same. That doesn't look like a different building.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like Walmart's where it's like literally all of them look exactly the same. Doesn't matter where you go, it's fine.
Yeah. That's
That's what we do in the U.S.
Because if you have to do it, it's like, well, why didn't they just take off the sign or something? Because there had to be somebody in the the only explanation is that they were like, nobody's going to care. But it's like, if you just...
That or maybe someone, either they left it and forgot, or maybe this was supposed to originally appear at a different point in the movie.
In different scripts I've looked through, it's always after that point. But
All right, well then, never mind. I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but no, they're just lazy.
I mean, I haven't read every script, I'll be honest. There's a lot of versions.
Who's giving Tim Burton the benefit of the doubt now, Kiri?
if you haven't read all the scripts, I mean, what are we even doing here?
Okay, give me time. I've only read 2 of them. So
All right.
Give me a moment.
All right.
Actually, we went over one of the best lines, actually, because she follows up the I'm a woman thing by saying, as I was saying, I'm a woman and can't be taken for granted. Life's a bitch, now so am I. Yeah. Which, that's a great line. I love that. It's immortal.
I love that line.
The thing is, that got me thinking, though. Like, oh yeah, that's a popular phrase, because it's a spin on the popular phrase, life's a bitch and then you die. So I was like, I wonder where that comes from. And it was, I found an explanation, but I don't quite completely believe the research, but it's all I could find. Where apparently the phrase life's a bitch originally was penned by the African-American poet Langston Hughes, who was like one of the innovators of jazz poetry. And the thing is, though, there's an article that says he said this in 1940, and I was like, right, Google that. Can't find any follow-up. Just this one article saying, like, as if they were there. Like, I saw him say it. And then
I saw him say it.
But that's kind of like in Curb Your Enthusiasm, when like Richard Lewis. There's a bit where he comes out where he's like, that whole thing where people say, like, the whatever from hell, like, like, oh, I had the day from hell, or I had the cup of coffee from hell. I made that up. That's my bit. It's like, you can't claim that. That's what's way too old and way too friggin' just in the ether. For, like, unless Langston Hughes has it literally written down, it's like, here's the first time it was ever said. Then you can't prove that at all. But the thing is, and someone does put up then the the and then you die element was added specifically after 1982 because it came from an article in the Washington Post, which was a profile of a 15-year-old girl, and of her described a meeting of her and her high school friends, and then one of them called Tony Daniels, again 15 years old at the time. The article says, the little section where it's in says, the friends discussed everything from the definition of a lerp, which is a person who is worse than a wimp, a totally worthless person, to the meaning of life, a question that was addressed cynically by the composer, 15-year-old Tony Daniels, who said, life's a bitch and then you die. And apparently then, thereafter, it was a phrase that was used. So, I guess if he copyrighted that, maybe he's just like, yeah, I've been living off that since I was 15.
Warner Brothers sent him money for this.
But I just thought that was very weird, though. It was like the original Life's a Bitch is just like, no, you can't. For some reason, I always used to think it was a Woody Allen phrase. I don't know why I remember at one point when I was younger, hearing somewhere, someone said, like, yeah, it's a Woody Allen phrase. But
I could see that. It sounds like something he would have come up with. Not that we're supposed to talk about him anymore. But,
I feel like it's a bit more assertive than most of his stuff. Like, there's not enough like self-deprecating neuroses in it, in my opinion, to be a Woody Allen thing. Like,
I suppose he'd direct it more himself.
My life flashed before my eyes, and I got bored, or I can't remember what the exact quote is, but like.
Well, speaking of getting bored, right? The Waters draft of the script is ridiculously long-winded in this section. It's insane. It's stupid. Really? It goes overboard. The whole draft is just God. Well, here, for instance, instead of "life's a bitch, now so am I," and all that. Instead, it says this. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it goes on for about 1,000 pages. But she says, "As I was saying, I'm a woman and can't be taken for granted. You are no longer the night. You're but a puny eclipse, a pitiful reminder of what's supposedly right. But in a world of wrong and hate, irrelevant is your most noble trait. Are you paying attention, you Batman, you?"
Oh, man. I should have got Catwoman in to write the outros. That's a nice bit of rhyming there.
Yeah, it sounded like our bloody outros.
In a world of wrong and hate, irrelevant is his most notable trait. I'm going to swipe that one. Going to edit that out of the episode and just swipe it in, pretend I wrote it instead.
We
God
made
damn
it up. Ah.
I like that on the page. If reading that's fine, but you can't say that. That doesn't work as dialogue in a movie.
Like Selina Kyle especially isn't going to say that.
No.
But
Maybe the Riddler. I don't know.
But then, more recent years, Michael Keaton's also confessed that he kind of went into the final script and crossed out half his dialogue because he was like, well, Batman doesn't need to say any of this. And for the most part, you're like, oh yeah, you're correct, he doesn't. But there is a very notable line here. Was after that, she says are you paying attention, Batman? And in every other version of the script or in the comic adaptation and the novelization stuff, he does make a crack going like, yep, hanging on every word. And she's like, oh, so you got a sense of humor and all this kind of business. But there's actually a bit of deleted Batman dialogue that I thought was really added a lot to him that they took out because it makes him a much more complex character. Because the things in the Waters draft, he comes out with something like, one of his responses is, well, people hurt each other. They lie to each other. They're more interested in what I drive than what I stand for. I need their intelligence, and they give me lunchboxes. And this is a thing because in that version of the script, Batman has been merchandised by the general public, and you can get Batman toys and Batman lunchboxes and stuff.
I like that. That's a really good message.
Yeah, and there's a thing. I think then in the Wesley Schrick revised version, she's talking about him. She says a man dressed as a bat is a He-Man, but a woman dressed as a cat is a she-devil. And then he responds with, a He-Man, sure. They shine that beacon in the sky, then wonder what hole I crawl out of. Then it kind of indicates this little thing of maybe Batman's a bit disillusioned with what he's doing, which would also give him a little bit more maybe that's part of the attraction to Catwoman as well. It's like, oh yeah, she's just kind of giving up and just doing whatever she wants. And I've been striving for all this stuff, and then the public now they're either merchandising me or they're just all they wonder is about what hole I'm crawling out of and stuff. So maybe he's slightly making him a little more complex there. I was like, oh, that's a shame. I guess Keaton was just like, nah, get rid of that. don't need that at all.
Oh, it's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, then he does, of course, just hurl napalm, acid, just I don't know, disco stick or something at her head, and
disco stick. Was that a Lady Gaga quote?
I was trying to think of what you call those things. The neon sticks you'd bring the discos and turn around and stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought you were quoting Love Game by Lady Gaga.
Like a glow stick?
Glow stick, there you go. That was it. You get them with discos.
I'm pretty sure a disco stick is a euphemism, sir.
Yes. Well, I'm sure it is in that song anyway.
I love the scraping down the roof, and it just how kind of silly it looks with her shoes, especially.
Yes, I love it though.
Giant stiletto shoes.
Well, I like that she can't get grip. She can't get a purchase on it because the shoes are going everywhere, the claws are going everywhere. It's legitimately like if I see a cat on a roof,
yes.
And they fall a little bit and go ah.
Catwoman on a hot tin roof.
Although apparently it is a cold, not gravel roof, slate roof. So, but yeah, I should also mention too, because some people might be interested, that we spent a long time last season talking about the various references to Vertigo, the Alfred Hitchcock movie that was in the first Batman movie. And this scene also plays very similar to the rooftop chase at the beginning of Vertigo as well. So it's kind of like, Tim Burton's really I really like Vertigo. And so that was a movie I really, really enjoyed. I'm just going to reference it loads in these things. I guess it's kind of intertextually relevant because, Vertigo is all about to do people putting on different identities and stuff like that. And obsession and things. So maybe that was what he was going for, or maybe he's just like, I just like those shots. I'm just going to try to emulate them a little bit.
It will make me look cooler.
I've been prepping my James Stewart impression to do for one of the outros, but it's not good enough yet. I don't think I've been.
Nah.
I'm going to real like, oh, Batman, so.
Oh, you want to talk about not good enough impressions? Wait till my walk-in outro. It will not be good.
Don't worry, mine's so bad I actually haven't done one yet.
It's gonna be like the final episode is gonna have to be John finally cracking out his walk-in impression or something.
But now I deliberately want to make it extra bad, just for you guys.
Yes. Do it.
But before I had this kind of problem, I can't remember if we talked about this with one of the guests before, but because this one's like, okay, it makes sense to do a walk-in impression, ask the guests to do a walk-in impression for the outro, and then with Batman and Robin, it would be like, oh, of course I'd have to do an Arnie impression, because that's the guy everybody does.
Yeah.
But then in between that, it's like Batman Forever. It's like, who can you really impersonate in that, though? Because there's no like definitive Jim Carrey impersonation.
There's Jim Carrey impersonating everybody else.
Yeah. But it's even you even kind of talking in that kind of way. Like, but that's not. If you heard someone doing that, you wouldn't think Jim Carrey. You'd just be like, "Why are you talking weird?"
No, you could just do the whole Nicole Kidman. Like, I'm talking like this because I'm a doctor. My name is Chase Meridian. What a freaking name! Sorry, we'll go back.
It's a wonderful name.
Getting way ahead of myself.
I was considering like, oh, maybe I could write like a riddle for everyone. But I was like, no, don't. I would not be able to think of.
Overextend yourself.
We could just steal riddles off websites.
That's true.
You're just gonna want to tie them into like the actual minute though, but it would all be like, the feline falls into a thing. But what is, I can't even think of it. How would you make that a riddle? Like,
well, what about once a week we do a riddle? On Friday's episode, to send people into the weekend, we could do a riddle.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And we can work on it as a group.
And get people
plotting right now.
Yeah, it might be a ploy to make sure people download on the day. Because they'll be like, well, we'll have a riddle on Friday. We'll reveal the answer on Monday.
Yes. We're already planning next season.
Catwoman fell from a great large thing, but do you know why the caged bat sings? I don't know.
Oh, yes. Love it. But I like here, you got, obviously it's Batman's turn to save Catwoman now. Because I know in some comics, of course, they have a very intense, close relationship. But in this one, you can still definitely feel like a weird chemistry and a connection between them. And they can feel it too, even though it hasn't gone like any further than glances.
Yeah.
Occasional innuendo.
You have to say too, like this is the schizophrenic side of Batman really coming out here. In that, like, he punched her because like she was about to kill him. And then as soon as she threw in the little ploy of like, how could you? I'm a woman. He turned into White Knight Batman. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then, he was off the roof. Had no problem throwing some sort of chemical agent.
Napalm at her.
Yeah, it could if that had hit her in the face, probably could have killed her. Or at least permanently scarred her. And then she's about to fall off this, and he's like, oh, no, better save her. It's like...
To which, he goes to so much trouble to save her, and then I just can't help but think about the poor innocent girl who falls later. That he just stands and watches and does nothing. Not even an attempt. And I'm like, this bitch was just trying to kill you.
He's selective.
Apparently.
Well, we get another line I really enjoy where she says, after she's been saved, who are you? Who's the man behind the bat? And I like that being a spin on, the man behind the mask. I thought that was quite cool because Bats is totally stone-faced. I enjoy it when he does that as well. Zero reaction, dead.
Yeah. Oh, that's just, like, well, he does give a facial expression in the next minute, to be fair, but that is his standard reply. I know now you're saying the man behind the mask. I just wish that I'm sure both of you are familiar with He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask by Alice Cooper, the song he wrote to tie in to Friday the 13th Part 6. So I just wish now, like, that would have been a cool spin-off single if instead of Susie Sue, it was Alice Cooper, like, he's back, the man
Don't
behind
you dare
the mask.
ever take Susie away from me.
She's still going to exist, John. She just will be... Oh, but even in the Masquerade Ball, instead of this like sensual, nice kind of gothic song in the background, it's just Alice Cooper just wailing, like huge raging guitar solos and stuff. It's just like Batman and Selina headbanging together while having the conversation.
I would, you know what? I think that would have vastly improved some of. I would watch that.
So you just want Alice Cooper songs every other scene, like you had Prince ones in the last film.
I do.
Oh, that's right. You were in for a Prince Minute too, Kiri. I forgot about
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I got the Prince Minute. They got their money's worth of that rights.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
And then we did.
I'm
We
here
didn't
for
have
it.
enough. We did we reviewed all his movies after the season was done and stuff. So we have done Prince. We are done with Prince now.
Well, I haven't done him,
Yeah.
but that's never going to happen now. Never going to happen now.
Oh, that's a tragic note to end on, unfortunately.
On that bombshell. Well, no, we do get a tiny bit of dialogue where Selina says to him, maybe you can help me find the and it cuts off.
Like, maybe you can help me find the way to the new whip store that they've opened. Mine's just dangling off an aerial over there.
whip is gone.
I'm glad you said that, because I thought you said the way to Amarillo. I thought you were going to go into that awful song.
That was what makes you think too, like, because they're right outside some big window as well, and there's a light on in there. There could be someone just sitting, like, was trying to watch the TV or something.
Having dinner.
Yeah, just looking out like, what the hell?
Something dramatic and clad in rubber is happening outside my window.
I'd be intrigued.
Mere moments ago, I heard the department store downstairs blow up, but I just checked and it seems to be perfectly fine. But now there's these two assholes dressed up in rubber right outside my window.
How strange.
Must be part of some weird sex thing.
Yeah. Maybe he's just like, oh, well, maybe I cracked that window open. Why not come on in?
He's like, well, my cable's out. I don't have Skinamax. There we go.
There's cables out because friggin' someone left a whip wrapped around the antenna up on the roof.
Probably. There you go.
The repairman comes out. Here's your problem. There's a whip. That old bloody problem always happening. Whips.
I was going to try to work that into when a problem comes along, you must whip it.
You must whip it.
But it wasn't quite piecing together there.
You must whip it. Whip it. Whip it good.
Yes.
But it's much like my failed. I've got a punchline for a joke, but I can't get the setup right. I just have the punch.
What do you need us to set up?
The punchline is just.
What do you need us to set up?
The punchline is just Granny DeVito, just Danny DeVito,
Oh.
Granny DeVito.
You know what? I don't know how to help you with that yet, but I'm sure there will be a place.
I did take it to the internet at one point, and actually Dale Kingsmill responded with like, "Well, you're living in meme culture. Just literally put a wig on him and write Granny
You
DeVito."
know what? That's true.
And I was like,
Granny DeVito.
"Yep."
Problem solved.
I'm going back through the clip, and I just caught his facial expression when she's trying to get her grip, like when he lands safely, and then she's doing the scramble. He's got the most hilarious, like, you briefly see it, of like, ah, when he lands.
Well, again, though, like that's actually one of the most agile times you ever see Batman in these movies.
Yeah, that's it. He's just like, I did it.
You know, he's probably
Oh,
not
wait,
actually
she's
wearing
down.
the suit at that point. He's just got the cowl on, but the stunt guy, probably
Probably.
is Michael Keaton, but like he's just wearing like a spandex bodysuit or something because there's no way he
How
could.
did he get up there? Like, where he lands does not seem like where she would be.
Say like if it was any other Batman, it would have been the grappling hook, but he uses the grappling hook so sparingly in these movies.
The place he lands does not at all look like the place he would then catch her from. I'm really confused about the geography of this. Because he goes straight down, boom, and then she's like scrambling, because she somehow went like off that ledge to a slanted rooftop, and I don't know how she got there. She fell off to like her left.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... It doesn't really make any sense. I'd like to
It
see...
doesn't.
I want a diagram.
I want to see what the full set is, because where she's standing does not make sense that she would suddenly fall, because there's more building. If she fell off to the left, there's more building there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks like she deliberately jumped off the roof.
Like, she'd have to walk a few steps and leap to get to the slanted thing, and then somehow Batman drops down, despite the fact that he was lower than her, and he's in a place to grab her hand. I'm so confused.
This is the new that debate that raged for Jurassic Park, when the T-Rex attacks and then the Jeep goes over the cliff, and a lot of people were like, "But the T-Rex comes out of the trees right next to the Jeep, so how is the Jeep now at the side of a cliff? Like, wasn't there a forest there?" But now there's a cliff.
It was a second Jeep.
I think I debated that. I remember it was actually former guest of the show, Gas Flint. Me and him had a big thing about it because I was like, well, obviously the car either, the T-Rex comes out a bit in front, and there's obviously on the other side of that fence, there's a drop that you're just not seeing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. There's a drop, like it's kind of like a bridge.
Yeah, and then but he had a pre-prepared argument of like, no, because he read an article on Cracked about it. So it was
if Cracked says something.
Well, shout out to Jurassic Park minutes. Maybe they deal with that. I genuinely don't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
We have Brady Crane coming back on in a bit. We can ask him when he's here. Like, you want to haul up information you talked about 3 years ago or whatever. But yeah, I think I'm noted out for this minute, guys. If you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm fine with moving on.
Yes, I'm all done. We will wrap up. Kiri, would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you and your work online, or is there anything you'd like to plug?
You can find me under Kiri Callaghan on all of the things. My book is still available. I'm also getting the second one done. If you want to support me on Patreon, you get, no matter what level you choose, you get a sneak peek of that new book as it's being reworked. So kind of exciting. Also on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Twitch I'm getting back on, actually. So, stalk me everywhere.
I just started using Twitch recently, and then after 2 weeks of being really into it, it's been like a month since I've bothered again. I go through waves, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's fun. It's always good. And yeah, everybody check out everything Kiri mentioned there. And check us out on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, and on Twitter at Bat Minute. And, give us a review on iTunes, like I said at the start. Otherwise, I hate you.
It really took an angry turn. Where did that come from?
Yes. I don't want you listening to the show. No, actually, I do. Please do. The most important thing is that you listen. The reviews are just a bit of icing on the cake there. Or a cherry, even. A cherry. I like a nice cherry. So anyway, on that note, we will depart. And we will see you again on Wednesday for more Bat Minute Returns and Minute 62.
Next time, cat scratch fever. After using seductive chicanery to set a sensual trap, the accursed kitty is sent cascading via a backhanded bat slap into a carload of cat crap. But what does the bat with a wound in his hide really think of this pussy and what she has to hide? There's two different spellings of hide there, so it still works as a rhyme. It's not just being lazy. Find out Wednesday, same bat pod, different bat minute.